Hello, friends, and welcome to Cinephilia, where we talk about
Hello.
movies, entertainment, and other things, and very occasionally go off on tangents unrelated to those specific subjects. It's Monday. It's the day after the Oscars, and we're going to
Oh
talk
yeah.
about Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I think Oscars is going to be just about all our news today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Oscars, which is great because I did not watch any of it at all because I was working. So I will be there with the audience as Will tells us what happened in the Oscars that he also didn't watch but was following on the internet.
Yeah, I didn't watch. I feel like I go through this every year where I'm just like, fuck the Oscars, but then I end up watching them. And this year I was just like, I'll tweet as news comes in. I don't actually need to see them. Because they were let's just head into the news. Let's get started with it.
Let's get started with the news. Where is the news button? There's a news button. So what's up with the Oscars?
It's yeah, it was interesting first off that they ended up not having them at the uh, Kodak Theater.
The Dolby.
They had them at Union Station in LA.
Yeah, that was weird. I didn't. I need to look up pictures of that to see how that worked.
Um, it seemed like it was a nice setup. Like they had tables and chairs and couches and stuff spaced out, and then they had areas for people to stand and give speeches and stuff like that. So
Mm.
it seemed to work. Again, this is just like I'm just talking by proxy because I didn't actually watch it, but people seem to enjoy the ceremony. Um, and I guess there also wasn't like a big host as like usual.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't like one host. They just kind of like passed off the mic and had different people speaking. Um, but let's get into. I want to go over some of the winners
Okay.
because there were some winners that I actually was happy for. And then there was like some controversy at the end, but we're going to get to that
Ooh.
um, later. I mean, not much later, but let's go through some winners first. So it seems like Nomadland was the big one
Mm-hmm.
this year.
That's
And I
what I
think that
heard.
that was expected. I think people went into it thinking Nomadland was going to win. I went into it thinking Nomadland was definitely going to win Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
And it did. It won Best Picture. Frances McDormand won for Best Actress. Um, and Chloe Zhao won Best Director, which strangely that was like one of the first awards of the evening. They just went Best Director right away.
That's weird
Um,
because that's usually second
yeah, they
last.
okay. You know what? I'm just gonna have to talk about the controversy as we talk about the nominees because because part of it is the fact that they changed the order
Yeah.
of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so best director came early on. I'm not sure. It might have been first, but it was definitely early on. It was like the first one that I heard about. Because I was just watching tweets roll in. And the other big change was that best picture is usually the very last award
Mm-hmm.
to be announced. But it wasn't this time. It was third to last, which made people think that maybe this last award, maybe they changed up the timeline so that the last award would be best actor and it would be like this big memorial to Chadwick Boseman because everyone thought that um everyone went into this thinking Chadwick Boseman is going to get a posthumous award
That's how we're
for
gonna close the
Ma
Oscars
Rainey's.
by like this
Yeah,
having these
so
big
maybe they
gestures.
have like this big memorial thing. And maybe that was their intention because they also don't the people putting on the show don't read the envelopes before the show, so they don't actually know who's going to win. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the intention was that we're going to do this big memorial for Chadwick Boseman to close the show.
Mm.
Um, and so when they did Best Picture, Nomadland, Best Actress, Frances McDormand in Nomadland, and everyone was waiting. Best Actor was the very last one of the night. Um, and it went to Anthony Hopkins.
That's
Chadwick Boseman didn't win. So if their plan was to do this big memorial, then that fell through. But on top of that, Anthony Hopkins
wasn't
didn't
even there.
attend.
I didn't hear that.
He wasn't there to accept his award. And so Joaquin Phoenix went up and accepted his award
Oh,
for
that's
him.
so weird.
Um, and then the show just kind of ended. It was just like, that's it, bye. And it was very awkward, and I think a lot of people were just taken aback by that whole situation. So
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 do you think that my this is what I was thinking maybe happened. Production thought obvious they had the same thing that everybody else thought. Obviously, Chadwick Boseman's gonna get it because the production
yeah,
doesn't know who's gonna win. Only the clearinghouse company they know who's won. And I'm sure
right,
somebody's thought, no, obviously it's gonna be Chadwick, obviously, and they programmed it so
right,
it would be, and then they didn't. And
yep,
nobody, no smart person above went, what if he doesn't? Nobody
yeah.
thought
There
there
was
should have been.
no contingency.
No, there should have been somebody who said, you know what? Let's not risk it. Let's let it happen normally. Because if it would have happened during normal times, that still would have been great. And then you don't risk having this awkwardness at the end. Nobody said that. They just assumed. And then it didn't happen. And now,
Yeah,
which sucks because from what I hear, Anthony Hopkins did a really good job. So he was deserving of his Oscar. But now that's tainted by the fact that people thought it should have gone to Chadwick. And then he got it, but then he wasn't even there. And this whole mess. And so basically, it like nobody won really.
and Anthony Hopkins is class act. He's
Yeah.
I mean, he's a acting legend. I
Hmm.
don't think that he would have missed this award. And there were so many other people like nominated that I feel like even I haven't seen The Father, which Anthony Hopkins won for.
Yeah,
It's
me
one of the
neither.
few movies I didn't see. But there were so many other great performances by some other how can I phrase this nicely? By some other actors whose representation would have been great to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Um, Even aside from Chadwick Boseman, because Chadwick Boseman was amazing, and I get the fact of or the idea of giving him the award because of it being Chadwick Boseman. I would have loved it.
Yeah.
But even outside of that, I think that there were some people may have even thought like um, Stephen Yoon is a shoe-in for this
He
award,
would have been
or
a good option.
Riz Ahmed in Sound of Metal was a shoe-in for this award. So it just came. It was just like salt in the wound that it was Anthony Hopkins of all people, and he was the one that wasn't there. It was just
Uh,
like he wasn't even. People weren't even talking about him winning. There was no, like you said,
yeah.
no one higher up even thought this could be an option.
And at least if he had been
It's
there,
so funny.
I have a feeling that he would have said something about Chadwick.
Oh, absolutely.
And it would have been like
Yeah.
a sweet moment, like we acknowledged it and it's great. And it would have been at least a nice moment, but it just got ruined by poor planning.
He actually did release a statement on his Instagram today, um, like his acceptance speech, and
Yeah,
he talked about Chadwick in it. So absolutely, he's like I said, a class act. Everyone likes Anthony Hopkins.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just, and then to put even more salt in the wound, of course, Chadwick was a big part of the in memoriam part of
Mm-hmm.
the show. But you know how like attendees of the Oscars also get gift bags
Mm-hmm.
um, with little trinkets and
Yeah.
stuff in it. One of the things in the gift bag was an NFT because that's all the rage right now.
Yeah.
Um, it was a NFT digital trophy of Chadwick Boseman's head. So now everyone who attended the Oscars does have a little Chadwick Boseman trophy in memoriam of him, but um,
That's
like if they ever want to see a golden representation of his head digitally that they can like turn around, they have that, but they
that's
didn't.
so
They
weird.
didn't acknowledge him. The voters did not acknowledge him as the winner. Yeah, it's strange. It's a whole strange situation. Um, but as Necrofilm is saying in the chat, there are a lot of other people who won that were deserved, and it wasn't awkward. So Daniel Kaluuya won Best Supporting Actor for
That's
Judas and the
great.
Black Messiah, which was awesome because he was great in that. Um, who else was a big one? Uh, Promising Young Woman won Best Original Screenplay. That was a movie that had a huge fan base of people rooting for it to win a lot of awards, and that was a big deal for them. Um,
Your favorite animated movie of the year won. That's great.
mm, so I did a tweet after that one was announced. So yeah, Soul won Best Animated Movie. It
I don't.
also won Best Score by Trent Reznor, um, which is, it, the movie's beautiful. I can't take that away from it, but story-wise, I just feel like um, that Soul did not hit right for me. So I did a tweet. I put Soul. I put a screenshot of Soul next to a screenshot of Green Book. It
Mhm.
was like Oscar-winning films about the Black experience, and that actually got a tiny bit of traction on Twitter.
It's
I'm
and
surprised.
when you look at the list, it's Wolfwalkers, Onward, Shaun the Sheep, and Over the Moon. I've seen everything but Shaun the Sheep, and all those movies were better than Soul.
Yes,
And I'm gonna
I
I'm gonna
agree.
guess that Shaun the Sheep
Absolutely.
was better than Soul too. Shaun the Sheep is great, just on his own. He's great. I just haven't seen everything he's in.
um. So yeah. So Riz Ahmed didn't win for Sound of Metal, but Sound of Metal did win Best Film Editing and Best Sound Design. And apparently the design team for that movie was all Mexican. So hooray
For which one?
for Sound of Metal.
Oh, cool.
Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Chadwick Boseman didn't win. But uh Best Costume Design, and Roth won for that. And also historic for Best Makeup and Hairstyling. Mia Neal, Sergio Lopez Rivera, and Jamaica Wilson won for that category, and it's the first time that Black women have won that category.
Oh, cool.
So, um, Tenet won for Best Visual Effects,
'Cause that's
which,
about it.
sure, okay.
Sure.
um, Mank, which was probably my least favorite of all the Best Picture nominees, won for Best Production Design, which I will give it. It did have great production design, and also won for Best Cinematography. Um, uh, Another highlight for me during the night. Oh well, I mentioned Chloe Zhao won Best Director, but I did
hmm
not mention that she's the first uh, Asian woman and woman of color to win Best
Best
Director.
director, yeah.
Um,
And really,
and
even then there hasn't been that many women. There's been like one or two women
Yeah,
have won.
I think that she's literally the
The
second
second,
woman
yeah.
ever, but the first woman of color. And Best Supporting Actress went to Minari. Minari did get an award, thankfully. I finally this week, by the way, I had not seen Promising Young Woman or Minari,
hmm
and I was like, okay, fine, I'm just gonna rent them. And so I rented both this week. And Minari is stellar. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely check it out.
Yeah.
Promising Young Woman, I get the cult following that it has gotten. I get why people love it so much. It wasn't that strong for me. There are aspects about it that I liked,
hmm
but I totally get why so many people are um, jumping on that bandwagon. So I would recommend that to people to watch as well.
Necrofilm says, I
But
liked Soul, but Jamie Foxx barely plays his character in the film, if you get my meaning. Yes. Yeah, we talked about that. It's terrible.
yeah, yeah, I mean, that's the downside of it. Um, but Yeon Yu Jung, uh, who plays the grandmother in Minari, won Best Supporting Actress, which is awesome. She was so
hmm
good in it. I'm glad that I got to see that movie before the awards happened. Um, and her won their song for best song for um, I don't even know what movie it was. The song "Fight for You." What movie was that for? I wasn't following, but her
Five for
won.
you, for
So yeah, those I think those are the big highlights to talk about as far as I know.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to go back and try to look at some of the production, how the show actually happened, because apparently it happened, and it was happening in like two different locations, and then it happened at Union Station, and it was a weird show, obviously because of the COVID stuff. But I don't
Yeah.
know. I had to miss it because I had to work yesterday. So I normally don't watch the Oscars either. The last few years, the only reason I've sat down to watch them is because we've had Oscar parties, and we all get together, and that's why I've watched. But like so this year literally is the reason I didn't watch it, and I had to work. I might have watched it if I had been home, but I probably would have. But
maybe we should start doing Cinephilia award show parties.
we should.
Is there a way that we could like live stream the award and comment with them at the same time?
We could just we would just have to watch it along, like along with everybody else, and not always not actually show. But if it happens at the same time, so we could all watch it together. So that'd be great.
Yeah,
that might be a good idea.
But the other thing that someone brought up on Twitter, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of weird. The fact that it's at Union Station, if you know anything about LA Union Station, someone pointed out the irony that they had to kind of ship out and move a lot of homeless people who live around Union Station.
Right outside Union Station.
Right outside, sometimes inside Union Station.
Mm-hmm.
But they had to move all of those homeless people in order to award the best picture of the year to a movie about homelessness.
Yeah, if you're not from LA and you think that like LA and Hollywood is like nice, and it's not. It's everywhere. There's like if you go anywhere in LA, you have that little nice location where it is, but everything around it is. There's always homeless people. So if a company wants to do something nice, they literally have to like get rid of move people, that sucks. Because there's not really a nice area in LA or in Hollywood there's
nowhere for them to move to one. Yeah. And I guess we shouldn't. I could vent about that all day, so we shouldn't even get started on it.
We should start another show, which is where we just vent about things that anger us.
Well, that's what our podcast was going to be. We should still do that.
What are we going to call it? Things that make me angry, or I forgot what it was. I had a name for it.
Well, we definitely need to do that because there are absolutely things other than cinema that Art and I need to yell about.
Oops. October. Okay, well, let's jump into. Oh no, we have trailers, you guys.
We have trailers.
We have trailers. I almost forgot about that. You know what we don't have?
What don't we have?
We don't have Warner Brothers trailers because that's what got us kicked off the internet the other day.
We're not watching the Conjuring trailer this week. The devil made me do it. We're not watching it. I will say that I forgot that we really shouldn't be watching Warner Brothers trailers here, and so I waited to watch the trailer on the show, and then Art was like, "No, that's not happening." So I watched the trailer just before we started tonight, and nothing special about it anyway. So,
all right, our first trailer is for a movie called Space Between, which is Kelsey Grammer. It's set during the iconic 1990s LA music scene. Grammer plays an eccentric has-been who's been and losing rock musician with a record label looking to drop him.
I haven't really seen him in much lately. So.
In 1974, Mickey Adams sold over 70 million records. Mickey! By 1975, he was off the grid, a ghost.
And now he haunts me because no one seems to know how to get rid of him. I managed Mickey Adams. He's a big, crazy baby.
I am nuts.
This is his latest CD he calls Doors. 10 minutes of a refrigerator opening and closing. Go up to Montecito and drop him.
That old man is completely out of his skull!
Mr. Adams, you really need to sign the contract?
I'm not going anywhere until you do.
How's your sprightlier sprite? It's good.
So, he signed it?
I take it you're aware that your table is melting? Sure. And that the walls are on fire? You bet.
He signed it?
Yeah! You drugged me! You gave me something!
I'm an artist. I came from nothing. You want to dump me?
The sound of doors opening and closing isn't art.
There's nothing more evocative than the sound of doors opening and closing.
Doesn't even look like
nothing more
him.
hopeful, nothing more final.
Let me ask you something.
It's channeling
How would you
someone.
feel if everybody thinks you're a genius and then one day they decide that you're not? That you're over?
Mickey Adams didn't think he had anything left to say, but he does, and I know it.
My life seems to be veering off somewhere. Do you know how long it's been since I played anything? I'm gonna ride ahead. I think you are very quickly becoming my best friend. Between love and hate, faith and fear, life and death. Music is the space between.
So I have thoughts.
Yeah, what? Yeah, I can see your face scrunching up. What are you thinking about this movie?
First of all, when I read the description of this movie, I thought this is not what I thought I was going to end up watching, and it felt like this people who edited this trailer didn't know what the tone of this movie is, because is it a weird comedy or is it some uplifting drama? Because it did both in this trailer, and
Right.
I'm not
Right.
interested in seeing the comedy. But when I read this, I thought it was gonna be like some kind of drama with like some meaningful thing, and no, it's just a weird movie. I don't really actually know what this movie's about.
Yeah, I would have to co-sign that idea of not being interested in watching the comedy, but I'm also not interested in watching the drama. This is just not. It didn't do anything for me.
No, it didn't. The description to me sounded interesting, and now I'm like, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Let's watch this instead. This looks happy.
Is that Tiffany Haddish and Billy Crystal?
An unlikely duo,
Very unlikely duo.
but I like both of them, so I'm excited about this movie. It's called the trailer. It's a non-romantic comedy. 73-year-old comedy veteran. Billy Crystal plays a writer who meets a New York singer, and the duo form an unlikely friendship.
Want to have some laughs?
Hell yeah.
Thank you for bidding on me in the auction. I am so flattered that somebody your age would be a fan of my work.
I don't know who the hell you are. My ex really wanted to meet you, so he bid.
How much?
22.
$2,200? That's fantastic.
$22. It started at 20, and then it went up in 50-cent increments.
I'm a comedy writer.
All right, guys, very funny stuff.
I also write for Broadway and movies. Why is your face suddenly bigger than it was before? Oh my God, are you allergic to seafood?
She doesn't have insurance, and she really shouldn't be leaving here by herself.
Your daughter is going to be fine. Why did you tell the doctor that I was your father?
I was a little loopy by then.
Are you doing anything right now?
No.
Want to have some laughs?
Come on, Queen, smile, girl, smile.
Marilyn Monroe from the 7-Year Itch.
I'd be at you too if I had hot subway air blowing up my ass.
Doctor, thanks for seeing me so late.
How's the writing going?
It's all of these young kids.
In the tradition of George Carlin and Richard Pryor.
Somebody's got to talk to Roger about his inflections. Come on, subpoena. What is that, a very small peanut?
Are you doing what we talked about?
I try not to vary my routine.
You have medicines to help you.
I was backed up for like 8 days.
You can always give yourself an enema.
I'm saving that for my birthday.
Who are they?
That's my family.
If they're your family, why do you have their names written down?
Charlie, you can't be alone anymore.
If you ever need my help, I'm here.
I'm writing something, and I have to finish before my words run out.
I'll take care of them.
May I ask what your relationship is?
I don't know.
The road less traveled is the hardest I know. Gets lonely when you're out on your own.
Do you live here?
I'm his friend, but your dad needs you right now.
I mean, this young woman is full of surprises.
This is no time for jokes.
It's the perfect time for jokes.
You funny, old man.
Everybody needs somebody sometime. Everybody needs somebody sometime.
I want to have fun. I want to laugh. I want to not be scared. And I want to write the book, and I want to do all of that with you.
Hell yeah.
Everybody needs somebody sometime.
Whoa! I I didn't want for this to happen.
It didn't happen. Your little frail body would not be able to handle all these groceries. I'll break your back, then you die. Can't have that.
Necrofilm had the same thought that I just had. He said, it looks kind of funny, but did you just pick another dramedy? I think I did.
Absolutely. But this one looks like a good dramedy, at least. This looks interesting.
This looks cute. I like the idea of a romantic comedy that's not a romantic comedy. Or a non-romantic comedy.
I think that is a rising want in cinema. Or it probably always was a want, but it's a rising thing where we have these movies that are just about friendship as opposed to always being about finding love. It's like a different type of love that people can share.
But I feel like those are hard to write.
It's good to see.
Those are hard to write and to cast. They're both super charismatic, and I think it's gonna be a good thing. I do foresee though this ending real sadly. I have a feeling that you're gonna cry.
You think someone's gonna die?
I think Bella Crystal's not gonna end. It's not gonna end well for her in this movie. Okay, our last trailer. This one I've been looking forward to this. This is the teaser for Spielberg's West Side Story.
Ooh.
There's a place for us somewhere, a place for us.
Bernardo. That was a very smart trailer.
Yeah.
Do you know why I say that?
Why is that?
Because the main lead in it is barely shown. Because I think that is a hard selling point for them right now. So I think, trying to get audiences to come see this movie without, being turned off by him. That was a smart trailer because there are only a couple shots where you actually see him.
Yeah.
And he's either behind someone or in shadow or it's just real quick. So
Because it's too late for them to turn the back.
it's too late for them to, they can't recast.
Necrofilms, I hear the music from this every week, kind of burned down on it. Oh yeah, that would do it. I'm looking forward to this. This looks interesting, and it looks really pretty. And it feels like hopefully this is back to grounded Steven Spielberg instead of Ready Player One Steven Spielberg.
I think it will be, and it probably will be. I'm so on the fence about it. It probably will be the best Steven Spielberg film in a long time. But at the same time, it's coming out right at the same time as In the Heights, which is very similar. And I feel like In the Heights is going to maybe better. I mean, of course, there is always room for everything. Like, I'm not saying you can't enjoy both. Maybe both would be good, but I don't know. This West Side Story is just not exciting. It's not getting me hyped.
I'm not hyped, but I'm looking forward to it. Only because I really want to see something
good from Spielberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Incredible. And I feel like this could be a back to having
like these shots. You're playing it again. These shots are amazing.
Yeah.
This shot with all the shadows coming in, that's pure movie magic.
Yeah. Every one of the shots, like cinematography is great.
There he is. I don't want those close-ups of him. That's the stuff
You
that's
get
going to
one.
ruin it. The rest of the cast looks great. Like I want to support this movie just for the rest of the cast, just like I want to support In the Heights for the rest of the cast. For that movie's cast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see.
When you're a jet, says Necrofilm. Necrofilm says, I like Lincoln, but I passed on Ready Player One. Yeah, Ready Player One, there was a special movie. I feel like you had,
yes, it was.
You had to have liked the book in order to kind of enjoy the movie. Because the book, obviously, it's always better, right? A book is always better. And we talked about it when we did an episode on it. Like it should have been a movie that Spielberg shouldn't have directed. It should have been like J.J. Abrams or some younger director.
Someone who was a fan of Spielberg should have directed the movie.
Not him. Cool. All right. Well, let's head into our main story, which is hello, Melly. Oh, that's not it. That's not it.
Today we're just speaking to you from
Falcon
the void.
Winter Soldier. Yeah. So we're here. So I was reading the chat. Reading the chat.
Well, I'm reading the chat over on Facebook, and we have a comment from Emma saying, "No spoilers, please." And I hate to tell you, we're definitely spoiling Falcon and Winter Soldier. We're speaking about the whole series.
If you had not watched any of it, I would suggest you don't watch because it is spoiler heavy.
So, yeah, if you want to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, go watch that first, and then come back to YouTube where we keep an archive of our episodes and watch us then. But definitely watch the show first. Hey, AJ. AJ's in the chat.
Oh, hey. There's major spoilers.
Yeah. So, where should we begin with this one?
Well, let's start with our general feeling about the whole series. Did you enjoy it? How was it?
By the last episode, I enjoyed it. I think I have I'm not as on the fence about it as I was when I first started.
Yeah, you did seem on the fence.
That I this show definitely has pros and cons to it, and that's what we're going to discuss. So I would just say I did enjoy it, but there are pros and cons.
Okay, I would say I generally did enjoy it. I don't know if I have any gripes. I might come up with one during the show, but like right off the bat, if you say, "Do you have any gripes about this movie?" I would say, generally speaking, I don't think I do. Necrofilm says he had only one gripe over the series.
What's your gripe? Tell us your gripe.
Tell us your gripe. Maybe it might be
I
one
think
of us.
I think everything that I have a problem with in this series could be boiled down into one gripe, which is that I wish that it went, I wish it pushed harder with all the things it was trying to do.
Okay.
A lot of the things that were, let me start the sentence over. The themes that we're going to be talking about that this show tried to do, I feel like a lot of it was glossed over and easy. And I just wish that it had pushed into that stuff more. And I think that's my biggest gripe about it.
Now that you point at it, I see what you mean. It was like, once we got to the end, a lot of the concepts that it wanted to explore didn't get explored deeply. And it was just like, hey, this is what we think about this. And then we left it alone.
Yeah.
I felt like maybe if we had another 4 or 5 episodes, like if it had been a 10 episode series, or at least a 12, like half season, then we would have even explored that. But I see what you mean.
Yeah. But I also think that between this and WandaVision, I've recalibrated myself and what to expect from these shows, because I went into these thinking they're going to be these big epic shows like the movies, and that's not what they are. They are bridges between the movies. So I think now I've been able to recalibrate myself and go, okay, this is probably not going to be a fully finished story by the end of the series. I think that all of the series are like that because all of them are being used to set up movies.
Yeah.
And so it's going to continue.
I think
I went in thinking wrongly about that to begin with.
I think ultimately its purpose was to explore Sam becoming Captain America so that when we got to him on the next movie, he wasn't, oh, by the way, he's Captain America because Cap gave him a shield. because that's what would have
Right.
happened. Because they wouldn't have been able to explore this in a movie. So it's like, let's do it on TV show. So when we get to the movie where he's Captain America, he's already Captain America, and you know why and everything he went through.
Yeah. And all of these series, I think, are just going to give us that kind of backstory, like you said, that can't be done in movies. Because there's a lot, as this series showed, and I think this was a good part of the show. There are a lot of complexities about Sam becoming Captain America. Like there's the one side where it's why is it Sam over Bucky? There's the one side of it being like, can a black man represent America? What is patriotism? This show goes into all of that, and these are the themes that I wish that it went into a lot more, because I think it touches the surface and goes in a little bit, but there's so much there that I wish that it really just pushed into it. But I think for what it did, it turned out to be, I was worried that it wasn't even going to do as much as it did. So by the end of the series, I think it turned out to be okay. And it was something that I enjoyed.
Yeah. So, so Necrofilm says he said he was really upset, in quotes, I guess meaning not like actually upset, but like teeny upset that over them using Battlestar as a cliche trope.
Yes.
Which I haven't.
I
have an opinion on that, and I don't think.
You think he's going to come back?
No, I don't think it was on accident. I don't think they did use them as a trope, as like, oh yeah, we suck at writing. There was a reason why he was used as a trope.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, he's being used, but there's a reason why he's being used as a trope. Like it was on purpose. It wasn't a trope because they weren't paying attention. Yeah,
race. I guess this could be the first topic that we talk about with this movie. There is already backlash in real life, like outside of the MCU, but in actual real life, there's an automatic backlash when someone new takes over a beloved character, and even more so a backlash when that new person is a minority. And I think that Marvel is doing something very specific, and this had happened in the comics, so it's not unprecedented. Sam did take over the role of Captain America in the comics as well as Bucky. But I think that them jumping straight to Sam being the next Captain America instead of Bucky is showing exactly the plan that they're creating with this Phase 4, where they are pushing people of color and minorities and women into the forefront for, a very specific reason, which is to show the diversity of what Marvel is. There's a great documentary on Disney Plus, if you haven't watched. I think I recommended it before, called Under the Mask. That's all about the history of Marvel Comics, and what the Marvel superheroes represent as far as being a diverse group of people. And Marvel got a lot of backlash early on. The MCU got a lot of backlash early on for just having straight white men as the leading characters in all of their movies. We got trilogies for Thor, trilogy for Captain America, trilogy for Iron Man, before we got any of these other characters in a leading role, so I think that them deciding to put Sam into the role was a very important decision, and then to have this show specifically go through what it means for a Black person specifically to be in this role is important, and everything about this show revolves around that. It revolves around a couple of different things, but that's a very important one, and I think that's exactly why Battlestar's death is what it is, because it's showing, for Sam to be able to see, and also for U.S. agent John Walker to be able to see the place that Black people are in and the way that they're their situation is different than other people. I feel like I'm rambling at this point.
So yeah, I mean, primarily this show, one of the things that it wanted to tackle, subjects that it was definitely racism, and I think that was the biggest thing that they tried to tackle. And yeah, the idea that America wouldn't accept a black Captain America, even now, right? Like even now, there's a lot of people who have issues with movie Falcon becoming movie Captain America, like a character that doesn't really exist. It's just in the movie. People have issues with that, and it was kind of cool that they wanted to explore that and actually kind of went through it. How would people respond? Well, one of the things I really liked too was the fact that and I found really interesting in contrast of like people having issues that a lot of people in Captain America kept calling Falcon Black Falcon. I thought that was really cool because it was, for them, it was super important that he was black. It wasn't just he's a Falcon, he's an Avenger, he's black. And so it was kind of a really interesting contrast of how all these people are having this issue with him being black and not liking that he's going to be Black Captain America, and all these people who are super proud that he's black and he's an Avenger, and wanting to hold on to that.
Yeah. And then, it's complex because in addition to Sam being black and becoming Captain America, Sam is also coming from a place of a little bit of privilege himself. Like his family owns boats. They weren't struggling in the same way as some other black people have, and I think that it was important to show. I mean, obviously they're having problems with their boat in this show, and they want to make sure that they can continue the family tradition and keep that as a part of their family. But at the same time, Sam, like when he goes to visit Isaiah Bradley, who I'm so happy they included in this show, when he first goes to visit Isaiah Bradley, him and Bucky are stopped by the cops. And Sam is, they don't recognize who he is, but off the bat, but once they do, they kind of like back away. But even when they aren't, when they don't realize who he is, Sam is cool and collected about it. And he's kind of like, it's okay. I understand you were just doing your job. And so, he's in this black neighborhood where all these other black people have probably had similar experiences, but were in a different situation where they weren't, where their reaction was different than Sam's. And I think that really comes, that was one of the things that I was having a problem with early on, where it felt like Sam was being black representation, but wasn't, fully representing the experience. And that worried me for the first few episodes. But then when he actually starts to have more communication with Isaiah Bradley, and Isaiah Bradley starts to relay his story, and Sam realizes that his experience is a lot different than Isaiah Bradley's, that's when it started to fit together better for me. And I was like, okay, so we're dealing with we're not only dealing with black people within American culture, but we're dealing with these different experiences even within the black culture. Like so it became a better representation, because not all black people are the same, and not all black people have exactly the same experience, although we do feel a lot of the same things coming at us. And I think that built, just one more thing. I think that built into a really amazing character for Sam to grow into by the end of the episode. I think Sam actually does have a great character arc in this episode, and he's willing to, once he takes the shield, because he's having a problem taking the shield, but once he takes the shield, it has more purpose because of the experiences that he's going through in this, and the talks he's having with Isaiah Bradley, who literally says any black man who calls himself Captain America ain't right to begin with, He because of his experience. but Sam comes in and is like, I understand that, but there's also all this other stuff happening, and I can take the shield and be inspiration for a new generation of Black people. So it becomes very complex, and I love that complexity.
Yeah, I was gonna say part of it, him learning this stuff too, was kind of a storytelling thing where, in order for us to learn these things, somebody had to learn them, and because Sam is the main character, he had to experience them so that we could learn these stories as well, and these experiences and these different thoughts. Yeah, I loved Isaiah. I thought it was super cool that he was in the show, and because he was like, so this whole story is dealing with like, do people want a Black Captain America? And really with Isaiah, he really was the first Black Captain America. It should have been, and America didn't want him. He really was the first one, and America tossed him aside, put him in jail. So it adds even a bigger weight to Sam becoming Captain America, because it's not like he's the first one who's going to explore to see how America reacts. We've known how America reacted. We had one, and we hit him and threw him off to the side and treated him poorly. And I think because of that long history, I think this idea of him being Black Captain America is going to push into the next movie and in a few stories down, and we're going to deal with that a little bit more deeply.
I love this comment. Melly in the chat is saying, I want Isaiah Bradley as old man Bruce, like from Batman Beyond. That'd be hella dope. I would love that.
That'd be cool.
I would also love, I want to point out the fact that Isaiah Bradley in this is played by Carl Lumbly, who is a great actor. If you don't know his career, just go look him up. He's been around forever, and he's amazing. But they aged him up for this show.
Yeah.
He's wearing old age makeup. And so I'm hoping at some point we do get him playing an Isaiah Bradley story, like something younger, or even if they recast, I would love to see Isaiah Bradley's story somewhere in the MCU, if it's another show, or because I was really hoping that we'd get some flashback scenes in
That's
this,
what I
which
thought.
the show didn't give us. I was waiting for that
because the age up makeup wasn't great. So like it was obvious that it was makeup. So initially it was a little distracting. I was like, why is this guy being old, like aged up? And then I thought, oh, maybe we're gonna get flashbacks or something. Yeah. And then we never got anything. I was like, well,
it didn't happen.
I was a little disappointed.
So I'm still hopeful that at some point someone's like, okay, let's do this Isaiah Bradley story. Because that would be great to see, even if it's not a full movie, if it's another show, because they have some great stuff planned for the show. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you were saying about Sam and like and the struggles that he had, because it was interesting to see the fact that like he was, even though he was an Avenger, even though he is known everywhere, he still struggled with, like as a Black man, with things like getting a bank loan just to fix his boat.
Yeah.
That he couldn't do any of that, and it's like it's such a contrasting way to like every other Avenger who is not Black, who, as far as we've seen, they're just living their lives. Like the only person off the top of my head who struggled was Thor, and he went through a whole depression arc and all a bunch of stuff. But like other than that, he's just struggling to be just a regular person. And simple things like that, and it's a little bit eye opening.
I think that you're right, and Bucky kind of is there to show that, because Bucky is going through something like Thor, where he's got this trauma. Bucky definitely has this trauma that he has to deal with within himself. But Sam is getting he's getting pushed back from the outside world, as opposed to Bucky, who's pushing with himself inside. And I think that that's kind of what Thor was doing. Where he, Thor had his own
it was inner
things to work through, but it wasn't ever something from the outside world. So you're absolutely right that Sam is dealing with something that the other Avengers don't really have to deal with, just because he's Black. Maybe War Machine has to deal with some of that. We haven't seen.
Yeah, maybe
we'll see some of that in Armor Wars. But yeah, it's I think Sam also being a Solo Agent maybe may put him in a different spot than War
Mhm.
Machine, because War Machine is so tied with the government right now.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, there's like I said, there's so many complexities. And I like that you brought up the whole not being able to get a loan from the bank thing. Another thing that I did really like about this show was the back and forth between um, superhero life and absolute like grounded real people life.
Mhm.
Because when he goes back to hang with his sister and deal with the boat and be with his family, she's just like, you're a superhero, you should be out there, what are you even doing here, like.
Mhm.
And so there's this whole it's not a class thing, but there is like a hierarchy between how we feel superheroes should be living, and how real people live, and you can see that between the two of them. And I think all of it builds into Sam wanting to be um a better superhero who does care for real life on the ground people.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the whole thing with the Flagstaffers, is that they are this group of people who have come together because they're not being seen,
Mhm.
and they have taken on these superhero powers because they think that it's going to help them be
Mhm.
seen. They're going to be able to make a bigger stance with these powers. And so the whole show is basically like what it means to be a real person, what it means to be a superhero,
Mhm.
and what are the responsibilities that it takes. And Sam's learning it all so that he can be, a great Captain America. It's kind of a well-made show.
Yeah, and it was cool because like you could tell that even though they're from different places, Carly and Sam had both been kind of like um had their hardships and were fighting against the world per se, and that's how they were able to connect and talk to each other and have conversations
Yeah.
that she didn't have with
Yeah.
anybody else who was against her. And so it was interesting to see that. And part of that, one of the things that I really liked about Sam is how almost every conflict he always started it with talking to people. His strength was in talking to people. Because in the story, he after he goes to war and I think he loses his partner or something like that. He has his own PTSD stuff, and then he becomes a counselor, and he becomes like a
Yes.
mental health person, and so that's where he comes. That's his background, and so every conflict that he deals, he tries to talk to people and like have a conversation with them and talk through the problems, which I appreciated a whole bunch that we had somebody who wanted to help people by talking, wanted to start there, and then could beat him up if they didn't want, they couldn't get anywhere, but like he always started there.
And very rarely, I'm trying to think, where in the show does he actually like throw the first punch even? It's almost like he fights defensively. Um, I mean, maybe when he's tracking down at the very beginning of the show, when he's tracking down the people and
Mhm.
who are jumping out of the helicopter. Um, we don't really get to see what led exactly to
Yeah, to
that,
that. Yeah.
so I don't know. But he does seem like a more aware and defensive fighter than
Mhm.
someone who's like out to attack you.
Mhm.
He's got a thought process, and I think that is very admirable.
Yeah, I do too. Um, let's talk about Bucky. So the other thing that I think the show tried to cover was issues of mental health and trauma, which is
Yeah.
there's Sam dealing with racism, and then there's Bucky dealing with which is I thought was great because Sam has to deal with all the racial stuff and becoming Captain America, which is and then so rather than just saying, oh, Bucky's not going to be Captain America and we're done with him, they he had like the purpose of him as a character now is to explore mental health and trauma and how people deal with that, and so I thought it was really really cool that we spent a lot of time him dealing through that, which is the thing that a lot of people deal with, and we don't get to see a lot of that either.
Yeah. I read a thread on Twitter
Yeah.
By an actual therapist
Mm-hmm.
who was critiquing the way that Bucky's therapist was working with him
Mm-hmm.
and just calling out all the wrong things that she was doing, because apparently a lot of the stuff that she was doing was enabling Bucky to continue to hate himself for doing things that he was not in control of. And that's, you know, if you're doing something actively that is hurting people, and you're making the decision to do that, that's totally different than if you're being controlled by someone else and doing things. And I think that Bucky has a different process that he probably needs to go through. I mean, this is me just talking after reading this thread. But I feel like you brought up Sam's counseling. And I feel like, I don't know if maybe I don't know if the writer who wrote the counselor for Bucky just was unaware of the actual practices of therapy, or if they were specifically writing someone who was not doing a great job so that Sam could later come in and be like, this is how we're going to do this. Because I feel like, I think Bucky's interactions with Sam end up working better for him than his interactions with his therapist.
I think that might have been the purpose, that things weren't working out for him, and he needed somebody, Sam. And I think it's a way to demonstrate how Sam is deserving of Captain America, because he, in everything he does things. He helps people. He does things for the better. He doesn't do things for himself. He doesn't try to help Bucky, but he does through his interactions with him, and I think that's part of him, of them showing how he can become, how he's deserving of being Captain America.
Yeah, absolutely. And their friendship is, you know, I think it's adorable how they interact with each other. They have Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie have such great chemistry together that even when they banter and are kind of being mean to each other, you can tell that it's done because they care about each other. They're not putting up with shit from each other, but they're also they're always going to be there to support each other. And you can see that throughout the entire show, even at the beginning when they're not getting along. Because they do have this connecting tissue with Steve Rogers. They both are who they are because of Steve Rogers in a lot of ways. And I think that Steve Rogers and the idea of who Captain America is such a, at the beginning of the show, starts off as such a weight on them, both. And by the end of the show, they both acknowledge that they just have to do their own thing. They can't live in his shadow. They have to be their own characters, and they can support each other in that. And that's beautiful.
So what are your thoughts on John Walker and how that whole thing went down?
He is, I think he's going to end up being, he was another complex character, and I'm unsure of where he's going to go in the future, because now he's met Madam Hydra, who I guess they're going to be bringing Hydra back. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who I was not expecting to be
I was
on
not
the
sure
show.
either.
Like, she walked in and I was like, what the fuck? But I think that's actually good casting, and I can see her in that role. John Walker is a character who is kind of so unpredictable that I'm actually not sure what's going to be next for him. I think that they did a good job of showing him to be a loose cannon, showing him to be someone who was in an official stance, who probably had the history and the recognition to be there, but did not have the mindset. At the same time of him being a loose cannon, you kind of can understand where he's coming from. You kind of like obviously he did care about Battlestar and his Battlestar's death. Him already being a loose cannon, Battlestar's death just sent him over the edge. He did stuff that was not good, obviously, but you understand his pain. I guess that's what it is. You understand his pain, but you wouldn't support his actions.
Yeah. And that was one of the cool things that they did right at the beginning. They showed you how, in a general sense, he was a good guy. When we introduced him, you feel like, oh, who's this idiot who's not Captain America? And then you like meet him, you're like, oh, he's a guy who worked really hard to get where he was and all this stuff. And generally, it starts out as being a normal good guy. But I feel like he got there he did work hard, but a huge chunk of it was through privilege that he was able to get that far. Battlestar was there with us the whole time. They didn't pick him to be Captain America. And he got there through a lot of like the actions of a lot of black people in this show, right? Because he had Battlestar.
Oh, absolutely.
Battlestar was a supported friend that always, raised him up. He was married to a black woman who I'm sure was super supportive. Yeah, she was super supportive. She was there for him. And things like that were like, and he didn't realize that. And I think having this like invisible support system gave him this feeling of entitlement, right? So, and it wasn't a feeling, it wasn't an evil feeling like I hate all of it. It was a feeling from the fact that he didn't know where he came from. He didn't know what pushed him up there. He did not realize that this privilege that got him there was present. And that's why he became
unchecked.
And that's why he became so angry, because he thought, in his head it was like, obviously, why isn't this happening to me? Why am I not in charge? Why are these people, don't respect? It's that I've met so many people like that who don't understand why they're not being respected, because they expect it. They're entitled. They think they're entitled to it, and they're not. And you could be that person and still come from a good background. You can still be a person who is that, and in retrospect, be like a general good person, but you can still suffer from those things.
Yeah. And, like I was saying earlier, like the whole idea of what it means to be like a grounded human and what it means to be a superhero, and how this show plays with those ideas. Him being someone who was, to begin with, not superpowered, had no experience with the Avengers, but then being selected to become the next Captain America, and to represent what Captain America represented, really put him in a position that he was not prepared for.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite line of the entire show, because there are some great monologues. I love Isaiah Bradley's stories, and we're going to get to at some point before the show is over, but the monologue that Sam says to the officials in the very last episode, that was it for me.
So good.
But my favorite single line in the entire show is probably when this fake ass Captain America white dude thinks that he can take on the Dora Milaje, and they beat his ass with no problem. Even with Bucky and Sam stepping in, they still beat all of their asses. Took off Bucky's arm. That was amazing.
That was great.
And then after the fight is over, he just says, and they weren't even superpowered. Favorite line in the entire show. Because there's so much there. Like he really went in thinking that he was in control of everything, thinking that he was the top dog, thinking that he was Captain America, so now he could do fucking anything. And he got shown up, and he couldn't believe it. Like, even without superpowers, these black women let him have it. He just he was not expecting it.
I loved how,
and that, of course,
I love how she kicked the shield and picked it up like Captain with no problem. Picked it up, and then just handed it to him. That was great.
He doesn't even know. He probably doesn't even know that shield was created by them.
Mm-hmm.
He probably doesn't even. He doesn't know the history because he has no experience with these people, which is what you need to be Captain America. There was, since I mentioned her taking off Bucky's arm, I'm going to say there was some controversy going on online about disabled rights and how that was so inappropriate for her to uh, do the switch maneuver to just like take his arm off. How that is so traumatic for someone who is disabled, and I just have to respond to that saying, being disabled does not hide you from white privilege. This was technology that was given to him by them. This was technology that he then in turn was about to use against them. And they acted in self-defense to disable him. I'm sorry, but that's not something that you can argue.
If they had just shown up and said, "I don't like you," and then taken it, maybe. But he literally was attacking them, not super harshly because he didn't really want to hurt them. But she was using it against them.
Right. And I think that is, that goes back to, sometimes your privilege just has to be checked. Because if it goes unchecked, you're going to turn into John Walker and you're going to think you're that shit. And it doesn't matter if you are, and this is privilege across the board. This is, white privileged. So even if you're disabled, you still might have white privilege. If you are not a white person, you might have male privilege. Like the things that privilege works in that kind of way where it's like, someone who is being considered beneath you, or is doing something defensively has that ability to do that, to take those actions. And you can't, sometimes you just got to deal with it.
Yeah.
But I love that we ended up seeing more of the Dora Milaje in this. I was not expecting them to show up. So it was really cool to see them. It was also cool to see Baron Zemo in this. He was
great.
He was a nice addition to this group.
Because I hated him in Civil War. I did not understand why he was the villain. As a character, I was not interested in him during Civil War. Like, he was so uninteresting. And in this, they made him so much more interesting and likable, even though he's one of the villains. Like, he was very interesting, and I really like what they did. I like that he came back and was able to explore. We were able to explore him as a character further. He's actually one of my favorite things in this.
Yeah, and we got some depth to him. He was kind of like a cardboard cutout of a villain before. And we got him back in the raft, and they're probably setting up some cool stuff with the raft villains doing something. I don't know. I feel like this is not the last that we will see.
No,
of Baron
definitely
Zemo.
not. And I think especially because people did react to him positively, like they liked him, this Zemo, a lot. That I think he's going to be a good addition to the MCU.
Yeah. Yeah, what Phil said, if Zemo returns to lead some iteration of the Thunderbolts, that'd be keen. Absolutely. And Necrofilm says, I think Sharon is working deep cover. Yeah, Sharon is another character that I wasn't sure how they were going to, where they were going to go with her character, Sharon Carter. Because she also, like Zemo in her previous film appearances, she kind of was just there and kind of bland. She didn't really add anything. But then we find out, again, with privilege, like who is able to get away with whatever they've done as opposed to who isn't. Apparently all the Avengers were pardoned for their actions previously, but Sharon wasn't. And so she's been ostracized from America. She's been living in this other area where she has had to come up with a new way to survive, and apparently has become
now she's angry.
The power broker.
Yeah. And all she did was steal a shield. She stole the shield and the wings, right? Or something like that for them. The wings and the shield, I think she stole.
Yeah.
From the government to get back to Cap.
which is something that Cap and Sam benefited from
and participated
and were pardoned. They participated, they were pardoned, but she was not, and she, you know, has just been acting like an art dealer ever since, but really dealing with some superpowers.
Yeah.
So, and you know, the way the show ends, we see that she is also like U.S. agent. I don't know what she's gonna do with her newfound pardon, because she does get pardoned by the end, but and she gets her job back. But that means that she now has access again to a lot of intel that she may take advantage of for other purposes. So I think that this show sets up two possible good villains with U.S. agent and with her. She could end up being someone who sides with them, like she did a lot in this show, or she could end up being someone who doesn't and causes some problems because of the shit that they put her through. So yeah, so where she is actually Madripoor. Phil is reminding me of the name of the, because I couldn't think of the name of it. But Madripoor, which is a place in comics, in the Marvel comics, where mutants often hang out and are. So a lot of people were expecting mutants. We didn't actually get any mutants that we know of, but just including the city of Madripoor is a nice little, I think, stepping stone to introducing the mutants to the MCU.
We didn't talk about Carly at all. You want to touch on Carly a little? Oh, we did talk about.
Yeah,
it
we didn't. I mean, just a little bit, but we can talk more.
What I found funny about this actress is that she's getting typecast into Disney films as the leader of rebel groups who are like underdogs.
What else was she in? I don't know her from anything else.
She's the leader of the whatever, I forgot what the name of they are in the Solo movie.
In Solo.
Yeah, she's literally the same character in Solo.
Yeah, that's true.
It took me like 4 episodes to recognize her. I went, because she's a little younger, obviously in Rogue One. I was like, they're literally they're like, you were good as that character in this one. Let's put you in the same character in this movie.
I forgot that she was in that because I purposely forgot everything about Solo.
Also, you couldn't see a lot of it because it was so dark.
Well, at least her scene, she was out in the desert, so you could see her. But yeah, that was not a great movie. But you're right. Why is she being typecast?
I don't know. She's in the new Willow series though, as well.
Okay.
I wonder if she's going to be a leader of a rebel group in that one as well.
Maybe.
That'd be great.
But I really liked this character. I thought that this character was very sympathetic, and obviously, you know, she killed some people, so she's going to die at the end. Like, I think everyone saw that coming. It was one of those deaths where, you know, she had a lot of good ideas, but because of the actions that she took, of course, she's not going to make it.
Yeah.
But I think that going into the show, the very first episode, setting up that the villains of this series were going to be an anarchist group who really just wanted to bring the world together. I think that was a big part of me not enjoying the beginning of the series, because it was like, one world, no borders. Like, let's do this. I'm here for it. But I think that, like all the things that we already talked about, the show showed a lot of complexities to these ideas. And I think without that monologue that Sam gives at the end, I would have been upset with her death.
Yeah.
But I think because Sam is so affected by her death, because he really believed in what she believed too, just didn't want to take the same actions.
Yeah.
And that, you know, immediately after her death, he goes up and is like, you people are in charge. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. Like, you need to do better. You need to get your shit together and listen to these people. That's the part of the monologue that I really liked, was that he actually blatantly said, you know, she stood for something that a lot of people believed in, and you aren't listening. You need to listen to why so many people believed in what she was doing.
Yeah.
Because there is truth there, and it needs to be considered and acted upon. These people need to be taken care of. And so, what Necrofilm asking, is she did really? I mean, in comic book movies and stories and shows, no one has to stay dead. Anyone could end up coming
We
back.
didn't see her
And I
get-
absolutely, if she comes back, I absolutely will welcome her back. I would love to see more of her. Because the character that she's based on is alive and a recurring character, as far as I know, in the comics. That was one thing about the Flagstaffers.
Flag Smashers.
And Flag Smashers, sorry. I keep getting that mixed up for some reason. That was one thing I found interesting about both the Flag Smashers and the Power Broker, is that they switched the type of characters they were from the comics to the shows, where Flag Smasher in the comics is one person, where in the show they created this group that went by Flag Smashies, even though Carly was the leader. Whereas Power Broker in the comics is a group of people who deal in putting superpowers into the black market, but for the show they switched it to being one person, the Power Broker. Just something that I thought was very interesting. So Dave, I think, is bringing up something in the chat that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
So, did you already know about this?
Now I'm realizing.
Plot line. Yeah. So apparently, the original story for this show included a plot line where there was a mass pandemic, like worldwide global pandemic, and I think that there are still some things in the show that I don't know if it was taken out by editing or if it was taken out by changing the script before they actually started filming. Because this was filmed how long ago? This was filmed before COVID started?
Before and during, I think.
Before and during. So they might have made some changes while filming. But there are like some instances in the show where you can see that there was a plot line that had to do with the pandemic on the scale of COVID. And they probably were just like, this is happening right now, and so let's just like pull it out a little bit. But I feel like, because that's where the Flag Smashers initially, where we initially learn about them, is because they're trying to steal resources to help people during the pandemic that aren't being helped, right? It's kind of like what India is going through right now, because the US won't share the resources with India, and so now COVID numbers in India are skyrocketing. Kind of like that. And I feel like, you know, some things in media happen a little too soon, where people need some time to process before it happens. To me, I feel like if they had left this COVID thing or this pandemic plotline in, and been more blatant about it, it would have been more of a like, I think it would have been more on the nail as opposed to too soon. I feel like I would have liked it if they had kept it in, because it would have made the things that are happening in the story make more sense.
Yeah, and that might have
have
just
more sympathy.
It might have been a Disney decision to Disney.
Oh, absolutely, it was.
I mean, and partially, it might have been, and this is me, I don't know, being like positive, that a lot of TV that came out in the last year has been trying to like make you feel better about things or entertain you in a way that distracts you from that a little bit. And I think maybe the idea to just shove you back into it after we just lived through it, maybe that was like a feeling they didn't want to like, you know, shove you back into it, perhaps.
And I think that this may be the reason why this show was delayed, because this was initially supposed to be the first Disney Plus show. And they pushed it back and ended up giving us WandaVision first instead. And I wonder if they pushed it back because they were trying to figure out how they were going to rectify the situation.
And plus, I think WandaVision probably pushed their production sooner because they shot it mostly in sets and literally in Universal Studios. as opposed to this where they were traveling over the world and they were going to different places. I feel like WandaVision was a much easier show to shoot because they didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. But yeah, that I think I saw someone in the chat saying earlier that the last episode made them cry. And I absolutely cried during the last episode. Like even being on the fence with this show for a lot of it. That last episode got emotional. One, when Sam shows up at the top of the episode wearing the suit, and you finally get to see it, and that suit looks so fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not a fan of the red, white, and blue as a color theme for various, obvious reasons. I just don't like why wear the flag. But that suit looks fucking awesome on Sam.
Really good, yeah.
And so I really got it caught me off guard, and I was like, oh, I'm enjoying this more than I thought. And then when we get the conversation he had with Isaiah Bradley in that episode, that teared me up. His monologue with, that I already mentioned against the elites, against the Senate or the government or whoever they were, that teared me up. And then him bringing in Isaiah to the museum so that Isaiah can see that he is going to be remembered as a good person as opposed to all the shit that they put him through. It was a good episode. It got to me.
Really cool watching Isaiah watch Sam on TV and being just a little less angry and going, okay, we're doing something. He felt like this weight lifted off of him. Like that was kind of really cool.
And I love that monologue that speech that he says to them is televised. So it's not just a moment with him and those people.
No, it's for everybody.
But it's a moment with the world. Like the entire world is watching this. And and this is also the first instance, because we see Captain America, Sam as Captain America at the top of the episode, and we get to see his actions and stuff. But that is also that monologue, that speech that was so powerful is also the first instance of the world seeing this Captain America. And so that's him. They now know without a doubt what kind of a character he is.
Yeah.
What kind of intentions he has as Captain America, especially after seeing John Walker behead somebody or
Smash
take out
if
it wasn't on camera. The whole world was watching that as well. They can see that this Captain America is much better than that one. So
Reed H asks, did we talk about the news site stupidly thinking that US Agent and Contessa are evil? I think one of the things this show set up specifically, and a lot of Marvel stuff, but this show specifically made it so that a lot of the people who might be villains are a little more complicated than just being the bad guys or the good guys. Like Zemo is technically a bad guy, but he also wanted to get rid of this. He knew that the serum was not a good thing. He got rid of it. Sharon Carter and maybe not U.S. Agent and stuff are gonna be a little more complicated than just being bad guys or good guys. I think they're gonna sit along like in the middle, back and forth a little bit. I think.
And Contessa is she has a history within the comics. I don't know which way they're gonna go with her, if they're gonna do all of the above, but she has a history of doing good and bad things. So I think that she's been with Shield, but she also has been Madam Hydra. So who knows what's going to happen?
It's good not to know whether clearly the bad guys are the good guys. Like you saw Thanos, you're like, yep, that's the bad guy immediately, and that's all he was. He was the villain for everything, but these other characters might go back and forth, might not be exactly villains for everybody.
Yeah. Is there a paints tonight?
There is a paints tonight.
Okay, then we should probably wrap up.
Talking about this now, I'm like, wow, there was so much to unpack, and there's a bunch of other stuff that I'm like, we didn't even touch that. But this show, as it went, got more complicated and more complex as we went, and it was good to see. When I first saw trailers for this, I imagined it was just going to be pew pews and punching for the whole show.
Like a buddy cop show.
Yeah, I just thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be fun. I was like, it'll be great, but it'll just be them shooting and killing things, and then then Falcon gets his cap suit, and that's it. but it was way more complicated, and complex than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. So I agree. Like there were a lot of complexities that I enjoyed. I always love complexities where you can have multiple truths be true at the same time. Like not everything is black and white, good or evil.
Yeah.
So I think that I was slow to come to it, but by the end of the show, I did enjoy it.
And the problem with the WandaVision and this is they did good stuff, and I feel that it was a really good start. And now Marvel has to keep this like higher level of quality, where like they can't get comfortable and be like, I will just do something like small and put it on TV. They have to kind of keep trying to top themselves as we go through this new television stuff.
But I think that I would still like to see something small. It's kind of like when the movies were ratcheting up and up and up and up and getting huge, and then all of a sudden we got Ant-Man, which is just like little heist movie. Sometimes small is still like a breath of fresh air, and I hope that they don't just burn out and give us like
that's what I mean. They have to keep giving us good stuff so that we respond well, I think. Reed H. Cooper says his review for Captain and Winter Soldier is, I love John Walker. I would kiss Wyatt.
Okay.
I did really like him. I thought he did a really good job because he upset us and we liked him at first and they upset it. He was really good. I'm excited to see.
He was great in the role.
I'm excited to see more of him and see how he gets to kind of explore his character and do more with him, because I thought he was really good casting.
He has such an expressive face as well, because when he puts the Captain America mask on, he looks completely different than without. He looks like I don't know. It's kind of a funny look that he has with the mask on. But yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with this character too, because
there's more. I'm glad that there's more. I'm glad it wasn't just we're done with him.
Right.
Yeah, I think we should wrap it up here because Perception Paints is back. Perception says right after this. What are we doing next week, Will? What are we talking about?
Next week, I think we're talking about problematic movies.
Oh, that's right. Movies that you didn't remember as problematic.
Right. So like older movies that, you might revisit and go, oh, yeah, that happened.
Yeah. And that came from like some clips that I saw the other day of a movie that I'd forgotten that I enjoyed when I was younger. And I'm going, ooh, okay, yeah, that was not how I remembered it. So that'll be a fun.
There's a lot of stuff like that. But
yeah. Oh, I hate it.
The good thing about stuff like that is that looking back on old stuff and finding that it's problematic means that we have progressed at some point. We've moved into a better way of thinking, hopefully. So.
Yeah. I have a lot to say about this specific example that triggered this for me. Because
we're going to get into that.
I think they were trying good, but they didn't come off as good. Anyways, we'll be back next week. Same thing about 5:30. We hang out. We're going to cut the stream right now and then be back in about 3-4 minutes. Just as I switch over to paints, and then we're going to hang out. We're going to paint some cool Avatar, The Last Airbender related stuff. Come and hang out. So don't go anywhere. Hang on this page or just refresh in like 5 minutes. And we'll be right back.
Cool.
So we will thank you so much for joining us, and we'll Cinephilia later.
We'll Cinephilia later.
Cinephilia later. Bye.